This is the opensource.club, a free St. Louis-focused knowledge share podcast. Through industry experts, entrepreneurs, personal stories, and more, we provide the information you need to achieve and thrive. Always visit our website, theopensource.club, for more details. Contact us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn recently published the results of a May 2019 poll that said that almost half of Americans with a full-time job have a side gig. That means they've got something else going on along the side. The largest demographic group of side giggers, that's what we'll call them today, are millennials between the ages of 23 to 38 years of age. The LinkedIn poll cited the number one reason these people are working second jobs really is to cover the costs of regular living expenses, the basic things in life. Building a career is difficult. Finding that high-paying job that everyone wants, that provides long-term opportunities and benefits, is even harder. Or is it really? I'm your host, Bonita Cornute. After this message, I'll tell you about an outstanding job training program that can end the necessity of a side gig.
As a proud supporter of the men and women who make this country great, Chuck's Boots is proud to offer the largest selection of American-made, union-made work boots in the Midwest. Over 70,000 pairs of boots in stock every day. Stop by today and see why Chuck's is the only place to go for all your work boot needs. Chuck's Boots, located in Fenton and St. Peters, Missouri.
Chuck's Boots never leave my feet.
Now, in partnership with the Labor Tribune, my guest on this Money Monday's Blue Labor episode is Bricklayers Local 1 Apprentice Coordinator, Dale Jenna Wine. Jenna Wine is a fourth-generation bricklayer. Think about that. 4 generations in the same profession. That is really cool. Jenna Wine is also an authorized OSHA construction trainer, as well as an aerial lift trainer. That makes me think of something pretty high and something that requires great skill. Dale, before we start talking about the Bricklayers Apprentice program, clue me into what an OSHA construction trainer does. I mean, what does that job entail? And also the work that you might do as an aerial lift trainer. Can you describe both?
Sure can. OSHA is our Occupational Safety and Health Administration. It's an organization that is run by our government to make sure that everybody on the work sites stay safe all day long. So our employees for our union, they all have to be trained in the proper techniques and proper ways to set up scaffolding and how to operate all of our machinery on jobs. So since our members need training, our trainers have to be authorized by the government to give them that training. So I had to take specific classes to become authorized myself in order to train our members.
Now, the aerial lift trainer, that's also something that I would think that would be governed by federal regulations to some extent? Or?
It's more job site specific. Our general contractors that run the jobs, like our SM Wilsons or Alberici or Perrick, the big companies, they want people that are performing a task on a job, they want them to be trained in that task. So they know if a man shows up on a job and he jumps in an aerial lift that goes 150 feet in the air, he knows how to operate that machine and he's going to be safe doing it. So then we have to provide them that training so they can show that company a card that says, look, I'm authorized to run this machine.
Interesting. That's something new. You learn something new every day if you think about it. We have another gentleman with us with some additional information about the profession, and that is Otis Peebles. He and Dale know each other from having worked together at the St. Louis Job Corps. Is that right?
That is correct.
Otis, welcome. Peebles has a different background, though. He comes to us through family ties. Peebles' uncle had a successful minority-owned bricklaying business over 20 years ago. And this young man actually admired what his uncle was doing. At the age of 21, I've been told that he applied for a job at his uncle's business, and I guess you could say the rest is history. Is that right, Otis?
Yes, it is. Yes.
How was that, growing up, knowing that there was this business in the family?
You know, ever since I can remember, I can go back as far as the second grade. I used to watch my uncle, and I was fascinated with the things that he accomplished over his years of being a bricklayer. And I knew right then, I said, you know what, I think this is something that I really want to do. So when I got older and graduated high school, I knew right then and there, I said, you know what, this is the direction I want to take, and I just went for it.
You did good. You did good. We thank both of you for joining us today. Let's go into a couple more questions. Dale, I'll go back to you. In preparation for this interview, I actually looked up the definition of a bricklayer. I was a little confused because I read that a bricklayer is a craftsman who lays brick to construct brickwork. That made sense, but there was the part that tells me a bricklayer is different than a mason. Now, I always thought that bricklayers were masons. What's the difference?
It's actually funny that you asked that question. Today, in the world that we live in, there's really not much that separates a bricklayer and a mason. But a few generations ago, here in St. Louis, our union was actually divided into separate workforce, where we had workers that just went out and laid brick, and we had workers that just went out and laid blocks on jobs, and we had workers that were stone masons that just went and laid stone on jobs. But that was a couple of generations ago. Now all of our members are actually cross-trained on all of our crafts. So when we send a guy out to a job, we know he's been trained to install that product. So now actually we are all masons.
All masons. Okay. So the profession, the work, the titles have all evolved over the years. But when we think about it, there are so many older brick structures here in St. Louis, and we've got a long history of brickwork. And I actually live in a very old brick house, and I have an appreciation for the quality of the workmanship, but I had no idea that there is so much depth to the job of bricklaying. Let's talk about each detail. They have to be able to read and work with architectural plans, foundation sealing, brick and cement block repair, and brick cutting machines. Those are all of the general areas that a bricklayer would address.
Absolutely. There's actually a lot of parts of our industry that people don't even realize exist and that are part of a bricklayer's everyday work. But reading blueprints is absolutely one of the things that we spend a lot of hours on at our training center when we are training new apprentices. They need to know how to interpret those blueprints, whether architectural or structural, and they need to know the importance of how to lay out a building or just a wall inside of a building and know exactly where it's supposed to go and exactly the correct size that it should be.
Foundation sealing? I mean, what does that involve?
Absolutely. Well, everybody that pays millions of dollars to build a brand new building, they want to know that that building is not going to leak water when they get finished. So a big part of our industry is there's actually a lot of companies in our area that deal mainly in waterproofing techniques. So they waterproof foundations or just the buildings themselves so that they don't leak water.
Repair, that's also part of the detail work that goes into bricklaying.
Absolutely. It's a large part of it. We have many contractors in this area that deal mainly in restoration work. We call them PCC contractors. They are pointers, cleaners, and caulkers, and they deal in deteriorating buildings, and they can bring them right back to life again and make them last for another 100 years.
Is that a little like, I mean, it sounds like tuck pointing?
That's exactly right. Tuck pointing's a large part of it.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about another area. We know that they work outside, but then there are others working in tunnels. That sounded a little interesting. And shafts. Why would a bricklayer need to work in those areas?
That's exactly right. There's another facet of our industry that a lot of people don't even know exists, and there's a lot of bricklayers that actually have long careers and they make a lot of money in what we call refractory work. And refractory work is basically factories or plants or places that have furnaces where they melt things, or they manufacture steel or glass. And inside of those plants, the furnaces are all built out of what we call fire brick. Just like in your home, if you have a fireplace, inside of that fireplace is fire brick, because they have a higher temperature rating, so they don't melt or fall apart when you start a fire in that fireplace.
I see.
A furnace is the same thing inside of one of these buildings, but the inside of those furnaces are built out of fire brick. So there's a lot of bricklayers that make a lot of time and money traveling around the country, actually, doing refractory work.
Interesting. Otis, is that something that your company might be involved in, or you've been involved with in any way? Is it strictly structure, buildings?
Yes, in my 21 years of experience, and there's a lot about this industry that you might not come across. So I've been strictly a commercial brick mason or block mason throughout my time. I never done any refractory work, but it's pretty interesting.
I would think so. I mean, and if you think about the whole conversation about infrastructure deteriorating, I'm even wondering about sewer tunnels, and does it take you into those underground spaces as well?
We have bricklayers that actually work for the Metropolitan Sewer District. They're employed by MSD, and they are working in situations just like that every day.
So this tells us that this is a career that is extensive. Let's talk about Bricklayers Local 1 Apprentice program. What are the specifics for enrollment?
The specifics are any person who is 17 years of age or older, and if they have a high school diploma or a GED, and they live within our jurisdiction of our Local 1 union, anybody can come down and apply for a job. Now, when somebody applies for a job with our union, we then link them up with our entire list of our area contractors, and that individual has to call these contractors and find one of them to hire him or her.
Okay, so it's not as if there's a direct placement process through the apprentice program with them where you interview and help place that individual. It's up to them to make the contact once trained.
That's correct.
Okay.
The student has to make the first contact, and when they get a contractor that's interested in them, that contractor will then give them a letter of intent to hire. So then they send them to us at the school, and we finish out their paperwork. Then we send them to the union hall, and they sign their union papers, and then they're off and running.
Are there specific physical requirements in order to get into the program?
There is not an exact specific requirement, but what we explain to everybody that walks through the door is what we do all day long for 8 hours a day is hot, tiring, heavy lifting work. And if a person appears as if they cannot do that work, we're going to kind of let them know up front. But, we don't turn anybody away for a physical requirement.
Yeah.
But if a contractor hires that person, that contractor still gets 90 days to try that person out. And if they cannot do the job physically, then the contractor will release them.
Understood. Where's the school located?
We are out in Earth City. We are right in between the St. Charles Rock Road and Highway 70 in Earth City.
What's the cost?
Actually, the cost is nothing for a student.
How long? Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. The cost is nothing?
All of our contractors, we actually have a program where our students are paid to attend school by the contractor that they work for. But our union is different, and our apprentice program is different from a lot of them around the country. In a lot of areas around the country, students are just, they join a program, so they're basically on a giant list. So they work for the union hall, and then the union hall waits for a contractor to call, and a contractor says, next week I need 2 apprentices, so they'll send them out 2 apprentices. But here in St. Louis, our students have to find one contractor to work for, and they get indentured to that one contractor. So we know our guys are not going to sit on a waiting list and wait for a job to open up. When they get hired by a contractor, they're going to work the next day, and they're going to work for the next 3.5 years for that same contractor.
Wow. What are some of the perks that go along with the job and benefits?
There's lots of them. Blue skies, sunshine. That's a perk itself. Getting to move to different places all the time and do different things all the time.
Absolutely.
That's one of the benefits I've always found is being able to go different places and do different things, but besides the physical perks like that, we have a lot of, we have 3 separate pension plans for our union members.
Yes. Oh.
We have a vacation fund, health insurance. We have all of the major perks of any good union.
How many students do you have currently enrolled?
Right now we have 57.
57. Good number. Can you accommodate more?
Absolutely. We can always take more. We have 57, and I'd love to have 157.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good to know. So those of you out there listening, maybe this is your chance to step up and enroll in the program. But we're going to take a break now, and after the break, we'll bring you Otis and talk about his connection to Bricklayers Local 1.
If your saving for retirement strategy involves the phrase, "I'll get around to it someday," we need to talk. Hi, I'm Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Stephen Steele. When it comes to meeting your goals, time can be on your side. And there's no better time than now to get started toward your retirement goals. Stop by our office at 6451 Clayton Road or call 314-721-0773. Edward Jones, Making Sense of Investing, member SIPC.
Otis, we're back. Please explain to us how the Bricklaying program works at Job Corps and how you connect students to contractors for jobs.
Sure. Well, the program at Job Corps is it's a pre-apprenticeship program which we offer students hands-on training and education needed for them to qualify for an actual apprenticeship. So typically the program is about 8 months long, or depending on the student and his ability to catch on to hit this trade. So what I look for in a student is a good work ethic. And then from that, I look and see if the student has the willing to learn. And once the student has those ability, then from there I make phone calls. I'll call contractors and I invite them down to my shop. So that way they can take a look at this student and decide whether or not he wanted to give him a chance.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And do you get much response? I mean, are those contractors impressed, pleased, able to identify potential?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I have 2 students right now, a male and a female actually, are on the actual job site. And they've been there for 3 weeks now, and they love it. Absolutely love it, and the contractor is impressed. And I always tell my students, we live by this code. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Oh, so true, so true. But I wonder how many young people are hearing that. And as long as there are people like you out there talking, let's hope that that message gets through to more people. How are students learning about the Job Corps program? Do they get referred by a teacher? Or just how?
Yes, we have, at Job Corps, they have recruiters which goes out and recruit young adults between 16 and 24 years of age at various locations, and they explain the program to them. So when they come back to Job Corps, they have an option of what trade they would like to take. And for those students who are interested in being bricklayers, I like to interview them and to see what their goals are. And I just use that to figure out whether or not I want to take them into my class and teach them our trade that I hold to such a high standard.
You know what? I want to go back to that previous point about the contractor coming in. I'm not sure if I understood correctly. Does that contractor sponsor the student to enable that student to finish their training at the Bricklayers Local 1 Apprenticeship School?
Well, like Dale said, if the contractor is willing to hire one of my students, that student then goes on to he will send a letter of intent for that particular student, and then from there he will go down to meet Dale, and to fill out some paperwork, and then go down to the union hall and take care of the rest.
Okay. As I understand it, Job Corps and the Bricklayers Local 1 information will be added to our website, www.theopensource.club. We'll be back in a minute.
Chronic pain, sleep disorders, anxiety, depression, seizures, and more can be relieved with non-toxic, non-addicting, non-psychotropic CBD. Shop for medical-grade and organic edibles, tinctures, capsules, topicals, and pet products. The web address is cbdhealth.today. CBD does not contain THC, and it's legal in all 50 states. CBD is a powerful and healthy cannabis, just like medical marijuana. You don't need a prescription or license to shop online. The web address is cbdhealth.today. Regain your health naturally and safely. The web address is cbdhealth.today.
Okay, gentlemen, we're back. Tell us a little about the role technology plays in bricklaying today.
Everything is evolving with technology. Every trade, every industry. Bricklaying is no different. We have actually, we were talking about recently, all of our members are getting ready to be trained on using tablets instead of reading blueprints, because many people don't even carry around a roll of blueprints anymore. They find all of their information on a laptop computer or a tablet. So that's going to be some of our upcoming training at our training center this coming year. And we're also looking into some robotics training. We have actually a mechanical arm that we just purchased at our training center. It's called a mule, and it's basically a miniature crane that can sit right on top of a scaffold system, and it helps our members pick up heavy objects. And this system can take a 60-pound block, and when it puts it in a bricklayer's hand, it turns it into about a 2-pound block. So
interesting.
Along with everybody else in the industries, we are evolving through technology and robotics.
Yes.
Well, math, I'm assuming, is also part of that. Do you look for that when you're bringing these students into your program at Job Corps? Math proficiency, is it critical for bricklaying?
Absolutely. One of the key things I do in my class is whenever I get a shadow student, which is a student that's interested in being a bricklayer, and they want to see, if it's a right fit for them. And one of the questions that I ask them is that, can you read a ruler? So what I do is I have a worksheet printed out, and I will give them a worksheet with numbers on it, and I want them to identify what these numbers are, because we deal with fractions. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very important to know the math in our industry.
I would think so. You want those bricks to fit just right and nice and snug, and they have to be measured properly. That makes sense. Well, what do you say to people who might say that bricklaying is a dying art? Do you hear that?
Honestly, I would tell them to go around outside and just take a peek. They call St. Louis Brick City for a reason. Ours is the oldest union in North America, the St. Louis Bricklayers Union. So it always has been a outstanding trade, but bricklayers go way further back than St. Louis does. There's been masons and layers ever since Egyptian times when they built pyramids. And it's ever evolving, but it's never going away. It's never going to be a dying industry. We're always evolving and changing with the times, but it will never go away.
That was my next question. There's a future for it. Is that right, Otis? You're seeing it?
Absolutely, yes. Like Dale said, just the architectural of masonry is just stand the test of time. It's just beautiful.
Beautiful. That's an interesting way to describe what you do. I like that. Well, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll come back and finish up.
As a proud supporter of the men and women who make this country great, Chuck's Boots is proud to offer the largest selection of American-made, union-made work boots in the Midwest. Over 70,000 pairs of boots in stock every day. Stop by today and see why Chuck's is the only place to go for all your work boot needs. Chuck's Boots, located in Fenton and St. Peters, Missouri.
Chuck's Boots never leave my feet.
Gentlemen, tell me what bricklaying as a career might offer a woman who might be listening to this podcast.
Well, good question. And I do have a woman out on the job site now. And for her, this job means everything. She absolutely loves it. It's providing her with a steady paycheck. It's going to be providing her with insurance. And she has 2 children, so that's something that we definitely need in this day and age. And she's on her way to becoming successful in this industry. I have no doubt in my mind that she will not make it. She will go far in this trade.
Is it something that women are physically challenged by necessarily, or no? I mean, as long as you're strong and you prepare, you can handle it?
Yes, she fit every, thing in the book when it comes to being a bricklayer. She's able to pick up the material. She's able to comprehend what she's doing. She had the proper training before I actually sent her out on the job site. So everything that she learned from me and Dale, she's utilizing that, and she's using it out on the job right now.
How many women are in the profession here in St. Louis? Can you put a number on it?
There's several women in our industry. The most of the women in our area, they actually work in the PCC industry, where they do a lot more tuck pointing or cleaning or caulking. But there are several women in our area.
And they could, though, expand to some of those other areas.
Right. Anything that she feels she can do physically, she's definitely invited to come and do it. You know, any contractor will give any hardworking person a shot. And all you have to do is show up every day and show them that you have what it takes, and you'll always have a job.
Interesting. Well, you talked about insurance, Otis, for this woman and her family, that being an important element. Because you're in the Bricklayers Local 1, perhaps you could give me an example of your benefits package, your health insurance, paid vacation, and pension plans. Dale?
Absolutely. And the great thing about our benefit package at Local 1 is when we sign an apprentice up for a new job, that apprentice has a $16.87 starting wage, but their benefit package is actually extra money on top of that their contractor pays in. So they actually get to bring home $16.87. They're not having $16.87 and then they have to pay for their own health care or things like that other people around the country have to do, where their insurance costs are directly taken out of their paychecks. So here in St. Louis, in our union, we have United Healthcare Insurance, and all of our members are covered by medical and dental and vision insurance. And our members also have a vacation fund, where every single hour that we work, $3.20 gets put into an account for us. So then November, when it starts turning cold outside, we just get a check given to us for all of that money that we accumulated over the previous year. So if it's a cold winter and you don't get to work a little bit, or you're missing a little bit of time, or it actually works out great around Christmas time when you need some extra money, all of our members are given a check for their vacation hours that they've accumulated. And we also have 3 separate pension plans from our union. We have a local pension, we have an international pension, and we also have a supplemental pension. And all of these items are extra items that are added on top of our hourly wage. So when we have an hourly wage that says $33.74 for a journeyman, that journeyman gets to bring home $33.74, and all of his insurance costs are paid after the fact by the contractor.
Oh, I was just going to ask, who pays for this? I mean, if it's not something that comes out of my paycheck. So you're saying the way that you fund these benefits is through payments from the contractors?
Absolutely. Well, if you think about it, everybody is mostly construction workers. If we say we're making $33 an hour, just as a rough number, you're probably actually making more like $60 an hour if you count your benefit package. If you start counting your pension plans and your health care and all those costs, your contractor's really paying $60 an hour for you. But what we get to bring home is our negotiated wage of, right now it's $33.74 for a journeyman worker.
Vacation time? You like those perks too? I guess those come pretty nicely.
It's very, very handy when it gets cold outside.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, that has to be a part of what you're dealing with because your work is outdoors. All construction has to take into consideration what Mother Nature is doing and how she might impact the job site. Interesting. Well, gentlemen, we thank you. Both of you have given us great information. We know that health insurance, paid time off, and pensions are huge issues these days. For non-union bricklayers, find a link to the Bricklayers Local 1 on our website, www.theopensource.club. Dale and Otis, thank you both for your time, and thank you for teaching our audience about bricklaying and telling them that it is indeed a really good and long-term career. Bricklaying just might be a very good choice for those who are out there fighting for a $15 minimum wage job, even those working side gigs to pay for the basics. Here at the opensource.club, we want you to know that there truly are some really great options out there, and you don't have to struggle. This has been a Blue Labor feature in partnership with the Labor Tribune. I'm your host, Bonita Cornute.
Thank you for listening to the opensource.club podcast. Become a subscriber through RSS or YouTube. There's more to come that you won't want to miss. Our name is our web address, theopensource.club.